In his first visit to Parliament as monarch yesterday, King Charles referenced his medieval predecessors and spoke of the weight of history that surrounded him as he pledged to follow in his late mother's example of selfless duty and uphold the principles of constitutional monarchy. Charles's speech at Westminster Hall, a vast 900-year-old building that's been at the heart of Britain's history for a millennium, was warmly received, but it's the history behind what we saw yesterday that I want to pick up on now, because we are watching history unfold, as you know, and these events this week are steeped in ancient tradition and custom. For those of us who enjoy the unique traditions of politics, one of the UK's most recognised and unusual political traditions occurs in that same building, the Palace of Westminster, during the state opening of the Parliament, and it involves the Black Rod. And here's what happens. The lady or gentleman usher of the Black Rod, a senior officer from the House of Lords, appointed by the monarch, walks to the House of Commons to summon the House to hear the monarch's speech. And he, as he was, but she's now a she, so she, has the door slammed in their face. When the door is slammed in the face of the usher of the Black Rod, tradition dictates that the usher picks up the Black Rod and bangs the door 3 times to gain entry. It's a remarkable event that underscores the point that the elected House has the right to exclude the sovereign or the sovereign's messenger, and that the elected House will make laws independent of the influence of the Crown. Happens too in Australia, in our Senate. And a man who knows a lot about these hallowed halls and ancient traditions is Lieutenant General David Leakey, former gentleman usher of the Black Rod, or we call him usher of the Black Rod to make it all simple. He joins me now. David Leakey, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
I made the point there, we have a very similar history brought over from the Mother Parliament in Australia in the Senate. Tell us more about the role of the Black Rod.
So the Black Rod, you're right. People know the Black Rod from this iconic moment of having the door slammed in the face and then banging on the door with the rod. And you were nearly right in what you said, is that the sovereign is excluded from the House of Commons, but there was a ruling made by the Speaker that the Queen's messenger, i.e. Black Rod, should not be excluded. And one of the reasons for slamming the door in the face of Black Rod is to just make the point, a little bit of theatre of the elected House's chamber, the House of Commons, independence of the Crown and their political independence of the Crown. So that's really the point. It's a bit of theatre. But Black Rod can't be excluded. That ruling was that he should be admitted. One of the reasons why they slammed the door and checked that it is Black Rod is that in about 1630, the Black Rod of the day arrived early and without his rod, and the House of Commons was still saying their prayers, and he marched in, and they said that was unacceptable, which is one of the reasons why they shut the door and wait until they're ready. The second reason is that one year the Black Rod arrived, and it wasn't Black Rod at all. He sent someone else to do the job, and you may ask, well, why didn't Black Rod go himself? And the anecdotal story is that he was too drunk. So that is the ceremonial role of Black Rod, and you can see there in the pictures as I was a few years ago. Of course, there's much more to the job than just banging on the door and dressing up in the fine Victorian morning dress. Somebody asked me the other day, what, in a word, is the role of Black Rod? And I suppose you could say it's the chief operating officer in the Palace of Westminster. One of the roles of Black Rod is to organise all the ceremonial events that take place. In fact, all the major events, not all of them are ceremonial, that take place there. And all the contingency planning, not just for ceremonial events like the state opening of Parliament or the funeral that we're having, the lying in state, but other contingencies such as if the Parliament ever became unusable, a fire or a flood or worse, terrorist attack or something, Parliament would have to be relocated and set up and operating almost immediately in another location. That's quite a major operation. So those are the sorts of things that Black Rod has to do.
One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today was to get an insight into the planning that's gone on for obviously the lying in state at Westminster Hall, but all the other preparations that we've seen when London Bridge went down. right through as we anticipate the funeral on Monday. This would have been worked over for many, many years.
25 or 30 years these plans have been in the making, and every year there is traditionally a big meeting, a huge meeting, to get briefed on the updates of London Bridge. And it's always taken place here in Buckingham Palace, in the Grand Ballroom, and there are probably 200 or 300 people there. The key planners from Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, London, all over the UK come together and are updated on the general outlines of the plans and how it's changed and what the variations and contingencies are. And of course, there were all sorts of different variations of the plan, depending on where the Queen died. If she died on an overseas visit, then the plan would have to be completely rejigged. So the London Bridge plan was then broken down into a whole lot of sub-plans, as you could imagine, and the plan for the lying in state in the Palace of Westminster is called Op Marquee. Blackrod is responsible for that, and the planning for that has been evolving, and I noticed when I looked at the pictures of Westminster Hall that even since I left office the plan has changed, and everything has changed partly because of technology. You have better cameras, you have better media coverage, better lighting in Westminster Hall now that it's been a bit refurbished, and also the plans changed all of the time because there is building works that are going on. Now, luckily, I mean, it must be a great chance of fortune that there is no scaffolding inside Westminster Hall for about the first time in 10 years.
Massive renovations. Just before we go, on a personal note, are you a little upset that you're not the Black Rod to see through these events, or you are perhaps relieved that someone else bears this burden?
Frankly, 7 years of being Black Rod was enough. It was quite a pressured job, and I was very happy to leave it. Sarah Clark is a wonderful Black Rod. She's doing a great job, and I'm just really quite happy to see that some of the plans which I helped put in place are going ahead and working well, and I wish Sarah and the team in Parliament really good luck for the next few days.
David Leakey, it's a pleasure to have you on Crinoline. My audience are political junkies, so they'll know exactly who you are and what you do, and it's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Not at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.